Welcome to Girls Talk Scuba. Now you're probably wondering who on earth we are. I'm Ellie.
I'm Emmy.
And this is the podcast where we talk all things scuba.
Including, but not limited to, education.
They don't know whether to do a buoyancy course or whether they actually want to just get some more fun dives under their belt.
Equipment.
We asked you what the first piece of equipment you bought was and the results they're in.
And destination. I really want to dive in the Caribbean and I really want to go diving with sharks.
Make sure you subscribe to never miss an episode. Hello and welcome to Girls Talk Scuba. We are back with another episode and I'm actually quite excited about this one. But before we get into it, Emmy, what have you been up to this week?
Oh, I have been actually preparing my gear because the sea here has been awful recently.
Yeah.
The waves are high, the viz is down.
We've had a really bad spat of weather. If you don't know, we're based on the Costa del Sol, which means normally we have lovely weather and sun in the Spain. But this week we have had some really bad weather.
Lots and lots
storms.
of wind.
Yeah. So we've actually been doing it together, haven't we? We've been cleaning our equipment.
Yeah, getting it ready for the high season. It's just around the corner. So been deep cleaning my suits, the BCD. I've sent my reg off to get service. I miss it so much.
It is so important though, isn't it? That is to look after your equipment because, you know, it lasts longer that way. And also we know that it's you know,
working properly. Yeah. Don't want it to mess up in the middle of high season.
That would be awful. But it actually leads us on quite nicely to what we're going to be talking about in today's episode, which is basically what equipment did you buy first? Obviously not talking about rental gear here, but what equipment did you buy for yourself first?
It was the happiest day of my life. I got the Cressy Leonardo dive computer first. That was my first dive equipment. I was very proud of it, and it was pink as well. But yeah, I wanted to go for a computer first because I didn't want to keep using the shop one after as well, learning all the bad, not so much bad things, but the things that can go wrong if you're using someone else's computer. Yeah. So I really wanted to just have my own one so it could log my dives and get to know each other a little bit.
Get to know your computer. Well, it's interesting you say that because this topic originated from the Girls at Scuba community. We always look through there for different ideas that we can talk about, but someone was asking, you know, what equipment did you buy first? And as a result of that, we did a poll to see and ask the community members what they bought first. And just to give you the top three answers, mask and snorkel won at 41%, fins was at 24%, and the third one was dive computer at 23%, and the rest of your equipment was kind of similarly ranked along the poll to 1 to 3%.
That's kind of surprising. I always thought the computer would have gone first.
My first equipment I bought, I'm going to surprise you all here, was a wetsuit.
No.
Yeah. Because I'm quite short. I'm 5'2", and I don't know what that is in centimetres. I think 160 something. But I really struggled to fit into a rental wetsuit, and I also didn't like the idea. I mean, you know, I felt it was more hygienic if I bought my own one.
We have kind of the same problem, but polar opposites.
Yeah, because you're super tall.
So tall and quite slim. So whenever I find a suit that fits, it's either all the way up my leg, and I have a crazy tan line from my ankle and the boot, or it's too big around the waist. So yeah, same problem.
But it's just something I really struggled with, and for me, there was nothing worse than struggling to each dive shop I went to try and get rental gear and just really struggling to find a wetsuit that fit. So I did. I know it goes against everyone, what they've said in the polls, but no, my first piece of equipment was a wetsuit. And then I think after that, I bought my dive computer. And then I think a mask. I think my mask was one of the last ones. However, a lot of people are saying as well, and very, very, very valid points, is, you know, masks are super important because and there's something that's so personal to you because everyone has a different face shape. Yeah,
that's true. I have the Cressy F1 in pink, and I've had a Supra Sub one beforehand, and it was a little bit too small. So when I tried the F1, I could immediately tell the difference. I was like, this one is so much better. So I would recommend that one. I don't have anything fancy. I just like the cheap stuff that works and does the job.
It is interesting, isn't it, as well, because you wear glasses.
Yeah.
But do you wear a prescription mask in your...
I don't wear a prescription mask just because well, the main reason is I can't afford it. Second reason is I don't feel like I need it. I'm not desperate for it.
Because you can read your dive computer.
I can read my computer. I can see long distance. It's more when I'm focusing on something small that I'll start to get a headache. So for me, it's not completely necessary.
No, but I mean, a few people in the comments did mention as well that one of the reasons they did go for a mask and snorkel first was because they actually needed a prescription lens in their mask, which I completely understand as well, because it makes your dive much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And especially needing to see your dive computer.
Exactly, yeah. I am actually looking at recommendations for a prescription mask because my sister has very bad eyesight, and I really want to get a dive. And she's been a few times and she has the contact lenses, but I can see the way that she struggles with it. Sometimes it will fall out and she can only see with one eye. And obviously when you get water in your mask as well and she's trying to clear it, it's just really uncomfortable for her. So I think a prescription mask is definitely the way to go.
And then going back to the dive computer as well, because the comments actually made so much sense to me as well, because I had this problem when I was renting gear. Is a few people mentioned the fact that when they rented a dive computer, the reason they went off and they bought their own was not only because you want to, you know, they have benefits such as storing your dives for a while so you don't have to immediately log it after a dive, but it also has other benefits of when they went to rent one from the dive shop, they found it confusing because they didn't know, you know, and I find this with our dive shop ones as well, because I have a one that I pretty much wear all the time. I'm not wearing it today, but I have one and I know how it works.
Yeah.
And if I forgot my dive computer and I didn't know how a rental one worked, I would freak out because it's such an important piece of gear in the water, isn't it?
I even struggle with the shop ones. Like, the first thing they tell you when you get the computer is to read the instructions. So you know how to use the computer. So I look at someone else's, like Ellie's computer, for example. It's a bit more high tech than mine. Yeah. I wouldn't even know where to start.
Well, I think that is you've hit it on the head though. Whatever piece of equipment you are looking at, it is imperative that you do read the instructions. I mean, I'm not saying that with a wetsuit necessarily.
Don't be lazy. Read the instructions.
And it is true, because then you know how to change things. You know how to change the settings. I mean, specifically talking about dive computers. But I think one of the things that may be daunting to some people who may be actually listening to this and going, oh, what dive equipment should I buy first, is possibly the cost. Secondly, there is so many different variations of everything, isn't there? Yeah. And I can only recommend have a look at the Girls at Scuba blog as well, because they do some really good blog articles about, you know, which equipment is better and everything like that, and not just better from an example, but as if you're a beginner diver, then you might want to consider this, because otherwise it is completely overwhelming. Looking on the internet, like, what do I buy? But also look in your local stores, because certainly when you get to the point of buying something that you want to fit properly, I would never be able to order something online if I didn't know.
Oh God, no. Yeah, I'd have to email the company itself and give them all my height and everything, and just say, which one do you think? And then, as I said, obviously in the comments there was a few mentioning of like me, wetsuits because of hygiene reasons, and also regulators. And I think regulators, I was surprised actually that they didn't come top 3. Yeah, for me the most important is dive computer and regs, because they're the two things that are saving your life. It's keeping you breathing and it's keeping you aware. So my opinion personally would be computer, then regs, then the rest.
No, it is interesting. And also I think this is such a finicky thing, but something that made a big difference was when I first started diving and I was renting regulators. And it's not actually the whole regulator itself, it's literally the mouthpiece. But I had a problem whereby I was clenching my jaw and I would bite through the mouthpiece every single dive.
I've never done that. I've never understood.
I'm a chomper, apparently.
You get the chompers and you get the non-chompers. Maybe it's because I'm missing a few teeth and I can't.
I don't know. But I was literally coming out the dive. And not only that, it's not just the fact that I was going through mouthpieces. It was actually the fact that I was getting a really bad headache and my jaw would hurt so much afterwards. And then I switched to a mouldable mouthpiece, so now I have one of those, and it has changed my diving life. It is.
I
don't get headaches.
Piece.
It fits correctly into the mouth, and if you don't know what a mouldable mouthpiece, it is literally like a rugby shield where you put it into your mouth and it moulds to your teeth, so you can literally instead of the mouthpiece that comes on, you know, on the rental ones or anything, you can actually change them. Obviously, ask your dive centre first, but they should be okay with it. And then also, if you have your own regulators, then you can put it on again the mouthpiece, and it changes the way it feels.
It's also such a great help for the people that have braces.
Yeah,
because it's so much more comfortable when you've moulded it to.
But then again, you don't have to buy a whole regulator for that. You could literally just buy the mouthpiece, which I think is about £4 or €4. But no, so I was surprised by the regulators being cut quite far down on the suggested first piece. But then we are talking the literal first piece of equipment, and I think if we're talking and weighing up affordability and also what is most useful, I do agree a mask, because I struggled to get one that fits my face. I still do. I don't know what it is about my face, but I struggle.
And the other one was fins, you said. What fins do you use?
I have the Techline fins. I used to have the Scuba Pro Go Sport fins, which I loved, but they're not so great when I'm actually looking for a multi-fin for my dry suit as well. So I actually did switch my fins to a Techline jet fin.
I have the Apex RK3s in pink. I love them. I used to have long Sopra Sub ones, so they were really long, and I thought they were the best thing in the world. And then I had the jet fins, the Apex ones, and wow.
What's actually quite good to point out, though, because we're talking about the first piece of equipment you buy, I think it is quite important. Just actually when you're renting equipment, take note, and obviously this is what logbooks are for as well, but take note of what equipment is working for you, and don't be afraid to ask as well. If they have a variety of things, don't be afraid to ask your centre that you're diving at and renting equipment off, would you mind if I actually chose these to test and try? And 9 times out of 10 I don't think they're going to have a problem with it.
Not. And it's good to experience all the different types of equipment.
I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball in, which I found in the comments as well of the poll. A few people actually said they bought a camera first before absolutely everything. Now, this was very minimal in the percentages, but I thought it's worth mentioning because a few people responded with their thoughts of why maybe you shouldn't buy a camera first as well. Obviously, it's completely up to you. And I think it is lovely when people buy cameras because they are, they're able to capture why they're loving diving. And it is the reason a lot of us dive is to capture the beautiful underwater world.
Yeah.
I think the few comments that did also mention about the camera was talking about just be careful when you're starting, especially as a beginner diver.
Yeah, don't damage that camera.
I mean, don't damage it, but also be aware, because your environment and your surroundings is what makes diving so beautiful. But I think sometimes adding a camera into the mixture can seem like a very easy thing, but if you haven't necessarily mastered your buoyancy, you might not want to go in and buy a camera straight away, because it would probably be more worthwhile you investing your money into something else, because to get your buoyancy right is really important. And actually, if you're struggling with that, we have done a podcast on should you do a buoyancy course or gain more fun dives to improve that, so do check that out as well.
Buoyancy equals better pictures.
It
really does. You're struggling there and you're going up and down trying to take a picture of this tiny nudie bank, and you're in the middle of the water, and it's just like,
it's quite difficult, isn't it? Yeah. But I just want to, I think we should start to kind of summarise what we've talked about today. And obviously the question was, what dive equipment did you buy first? And what would you buy first, I guess, as well? And just to recap, the mask and snorkel won at 41%, fins was at 24%, and dive computer was at 23%. To kind of finish on, what would be your advice to anyone looking at any type of equipment to buy? What would you say your advice would be?
Okay. And I would say if you're starting off and you're on a budget, get the mask and the snorkel first, because it's going to make you feel 10 times more comfortable, especially when you're clearing your mask and you're starting to do the skills. And then if you have a bit more of a budget, I would say to get a computer first, because it really helps you, especially seeing how deep you are, how long your dive's been, what the temperature is, and all the other things. And you can log the dives on the computer. I think it really helps to get the computer.
Absolutely. And I would probably say just do your research, make sure you know what you would like to get, the benefits of it. And there are so many different brands and types of all equipment, so just make sure you do a bit of research and use the Girls at Scuba,
I was just going to say,
community
use
as
the
well.
Girls at Scuba community. There's so many recommendations on there with people giving their own opinion
And also
experience.
whys and whys nots, which are
Yeah.
really helpful when it comes to buying equipment.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to Girls Talk Scuba and also rate the episodes as well. We'll be back next time with another episode.